There were just two truly terrifying incidents during my whole career as a police officer in Floyd County, Georgia. The worst of the two is the one I'll tell you about. I was out on patrol in my cruiser, taking advantage of the leisurely evening. At this very location, there were small forests on either side of the road, and that was the beginning. Someone was leaping into the woods over there on the left, and I saw it. However, I could only make out half of them. They disappeared in an instant. I drew nearer and illuminated the forest with a spotlight. Their presence eluded me. Regrettably, it was my duty to investigate such matters, so I gingerly got out of the vehicle and started looking. I was so scared that I was prepared to pull the trigger at this very moment. Next, I heard the stereotypical crack of a limb breaking from behind a tree. However, I resisted the urge to dash back to the vehicle and instead summoned them to come out. A masked figure emerged from the tree. I motioned for them to cautiously approach me while raising their arms and removing their mask. They gestured with their hands up, but they remained covered up. Attempting to assert my dominance, I raised my voice and demanded that they remove it. They were about to remove it when all of a sudden, they glanced to their left and then back at me. Steps were approaching from the direction of my right. A firearm was drawn from my belt. I shouted for everyone to stand up and raise their hands. Maybe you're asking, why? You too would have been feces covered in this situation if you had been in it. A second mask-wielding figure approached, this time with an axe. I had him cornered with my revolver, but then sounds of approaching footfall filled the air. As far as I could tell, everyone was encircling me. With just an opening behind me, a group of at least 10 strangers clad in masks encircled me, forming an almost round formation. Axes and similar weapons were held by half of them. I remained motionless, my weapon up but not directed towards anything in particular. It was as if I were about to vomit. Whoever it was finally broke the silence by saying, "Go away," in a low, muted voice is beyond my comprehension. As he said this, my heart sank, but I also knew I would survive. I bolted for the vehicle and sped half a mile down the road while yelling for help. No one was in the woods when the search SWAT team showed up, as one might expect. On this, I have an opinion. But I assume what I saw was a messed up secret society plotting to kidnap an unsuspecting bystander. Whoever leaped into the bushes as I was driving past probably thought my car was a police vehicle and attempted to hide. If I weren't a police officer, I think they would have apprehended me, taken me to the woods, and subjected me to whatever this cult does for its evil pleasures. I was in the village, responding to a call. From across the street, a homeowner heard what sounded like trespassing coming from one of the abandoned buildings. Upon my arrival, I promptly started searching the building. A 2-story convenience store was its previous home. Everything had been removed except the floor-attached components, such as the counter and shelving. Even the lights in the room weren't working. I made sure nobody was hidden in any of the narrow hallways before moving on to the upper floor. It had no one in it whatsoever. I glanced back at the building as I made my way to my car and noticed that someone was standing at the second-floor window. A lady with long grey locks fell beyond her shoulders was in the room. No doubt a big grin spread across her face as she gazed down at me. The window was unobstructed, but I returned inside in a flash and made it to the upper floor in under a minute. No one was visible. I must have counted 10 times throughout all 3 aisles. I looked in the recesses of the counter. The restroom was my first stop. Anyone could see. Feeling a bit anxious, I retreated, convinced that my imagination was playing tricks on me. I turned my gaze back to the glass, and sure enough, there she was, flashing that same unsettling smile. In my renewed quest to locate this woman, I returned to the store and hurriedly perused all 3 aisles. Just as I was about to pack it in for good, I caught sight of something in my periphery. It was a matte black color that had stuck to the ceiling. She was there when I shone my light up there. As she leaned her feet on the tile for support, the insane woman continued to smile horrifyingly as she stared at me from her perch on the ceiling. Laughing uncontrollably, she made her way to the station. To this day, I still have no idea whether she suffered from a mental illness. She appeared to be playfully teasing me, but in a completely negative manner. She kept staring at me in the rearview mirror the entire time. An alarm was responded to by my squad mate and me. The site of the incident was a doctor's office housed in a former office building. It was also connected to a pharmacy. From an office on the upper floor, our dispatch received a motion signal. We went inside to secure the building after the key holder arrived. We opted to use the elevator to the second story because the stairs were locked behind a door that, naturally, the key holder lacked the key to. Once inside, the elevator revealed a corridor that was completely dark save for a single light fixture situated at the very end. So far, everything seems to be locked down once we began checking the doors. As expected, the door was opened when we reached the final office. We went inside and saw that the office was empty. Entering through the door, one could see a spacious reception hall and waiting room. Every one of the 10 or 12 exam rooms went off without a hitch. As soon as we left the office, we sensed that something was wrong. It was at that moment that I saw the previously lit overhead light at the far end of the corridor was no longer switched on. Another light at the elevators took its place. When I turned to my squad mate, I saw that he was totally white. Once I questioned him about the situation, he responded with, "Weren't all those doors we just checked closed and locked?" I responded, "Yes, so." According to my friend, well, now they're all standing open. Every single office down the hall that we had previously examined was, indeed, now open for business. We began clearing and securing workplaces once the pucker factor hit. As we were leaving the last office, the main door banged shut right before we rounded the corner to enter the waiting area. After that, a form of static feedback began to drive our radios crazy. At this point, all I wanted to do was go immediately. Resuming our journey in the elevator, we descended to the ground level in pursuit of re-establishing communication with the key holder. Unfortunately, the key holder had vanished. I notified dispatch and asked for the key holder's contact information so I could inform them about our findings. According to dispatch, the key holder is still on their way to us and has given us a 5-minute estimated time of arrival. Our previous outing with a key holder was previously reported to dispatch. I was asked by dispatch to contact them. Upon contacting dispatch, they informed me that our involvement with the key holder was highly unlikely. They said that one had just been contacted by the alarm firm. I confronted the actual key holder about the man who had let us into the building when he finally showed up. I described him to her since she had asked me to. According to her, that sounded like a doctor who had rented the office down the hall on the second level. Afterwards, she revealed that he had taken his own life at his vacation house a few days prior.